Presented by Verizon. I am John DeShazier, and we will be joined shortly from Levi's Stadium by Aaron Summers, where the Saints, unfortunately, 13-0 losers to the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. Difficult game for the Saints. They couldn't get anything going offensively. Defense held up very, very well against the 49ers offense, but one of those games where the Saints couldn't get it going offensively. Two crucial turnovers, both fumbles by running back Alvin Kamara, one that led to San Francisco points, the other, which in all likelihood took points off the boards for the Saints, contributed significantly to the loss for the Saints. So Saints are 4-8 this season, and on a day where they had an opportunity to climb a little bit higher, a little bit closer to the two first-place teams, the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, they falter in Santa Clara, California on this day. We're going to bring in Aaron Summers right now because Aaron, boots on the ground at Levi's Stadium. Aaron, what were some of the things that stood out for you in this game?
Hey, John, thanks so much for doing this for me today, starting to show off. And here in Levi's Stadium, things didn't start well for the Saints. Alvin Kamara fumbles on the opening drive, and it didn't feel good to start, though the Saints were still in it until about 13 seconds left in this game. They were only down 3-0 left in the first half, and then that's when the 49ers were able to score before the half, going up 10-0. So still at that point, this one was definitely not out of hand. Things did not progress well in the second half as the Saints get into two goal-to-go situations and are unable to come up with any points in either of them. There was another fumble late by Alvin Kamara, and then Will Lutz misses a field goal as well. Again, the Saints still had an opportunity in the fourth quarter as they're there with an opportunity to score from the 4. They had 4 opportunities there in the red zone, and Andy Dalton gets sacked, and again, they come up with no points. So I think the frustrating point in this game is that there were so many opportunities. The 49ers were held very far underneath their usual point total with Christian McCaffrey. Since he's been acquired before week 7, they've averaged 28.5 points per game. Today, only scoring 19. The Saints defense did a very good job of, kind of reeling them in a little bit on an offense that's definitely been rolling over the past few weeks. Unfortunately, offensively for the Saints, they weren't able to step up and answer their call on that side of the ball.
And I think that's been a significant issue for the Saints this season is they will play a clean game as they did last week against the Los Angeles Rams. They win that game 27-20 in the Caesars Superdome. And unfortunately, they will follow it up with a couple of mistake-filled games where they're unable to put together any kind of momentum in terms of winning. Saints have yet to have a 2-game winning streak this season. This game, one of those where they really, really were their own worst enemies. Again, the Kamara fumble on the opening drive of the game leads to a field goal by San Francisco. Later in this game, Will Lutz misses a field goal attempt from 48 yards out. Alontae Taylor has his first career interception wiped off the board because of a Chris Harris illegal contact penalty down the field. You have the Alvin Kamara fumble where he's trying to stretch and strain and get to the goal line in the red zone. And then I think, as Aaron mentioned, 4 opportunities from the 4-yard line, first and goal from the 4. 4 passes fall incomplete for the Saints. They don't score anything on those possessions. And it really is one of those days where if the offense can get a little something going, give a little support to the defense, maybe they're able to win this game because San Francisco appeared to be a fairly beatable team. Now, San Francisco, don't take anything away from the 49ers, played extremely well defensively. Alvin Kamara didn't just lay the ball on the turf. They knocked those balls out of his arms, and they were able to create those fumbles. Fred Warner on the first one, and then on the goal line, a perfect hit really on the football to jar that football loose out of Kamara's hands. He is a guy who is as sure-handed as they come, and yet those were the 3rd and 4th lost fumbles for him this season. So it's been one thing after another for this offense, and they simply have not been able to get it going on. And unfortunately, that's been the story of this team this season. And right now, 4-8, it speaks to that as the Saints are, 4 games under 500 and still an outside opportunity, an outside chance to win this division because no one wants to run away and hide with it. But if they continue to play this way, it's going to get really short. And it's already probably in a fairly desperation mode because only 5 games remain to make up the ground that the Saints will need to make up in order to be division champions in the NFC South division. Really a difficult day to stomach if you're an offensive fan for the Saints because, Andy Dalton played fairly clean, 18 of 29, 204 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but he just doesn't get the plays going. I had a deep pass for Chris Olave that fell incomplete down the field. Taysom Hill also had a nice non-completion to Chris Olave because, Chris Olave took a couple of steps and then the pass that was ruled a completion on the field was overturned by replay. The officials say he did not possess it long enough, did not make a football move, did not survive the ground. And so that would have put the Saints in the red zone also in scoring territory. But, again, one of those days where nothing seemed to go right for this offense, whether it be a penalty here or there, or whether it be maybe a drop pass, or they are unable to capitalize on a big opportunity. They just could not seem to get it in gear for this entire game. So, Aaron, again, we're going to go back to Aaron at Levi Stadium. Aaron, again, what were some of the things that seemed to plague this offense in this game?
I think something that we definitely have to bring up is the penalties. While the San Francisco 49ers committed more penalties, they had 7 on the day. The Saints just had very timely penalties that negated a lot of good opportunities for the Saints. There was the face mask penalty by Trevor Penning, who it was good to see him back in the game, but with that penalty, it negated a defensive pass interference call downfield, which would have continued to move the ball for the Saints. There was the possible Alontae Taylor interception that was negated by a Chris Harris Jr. penalty. So there was just some really unfortunate penalties at the wrong time, and they definitely cost the Saints multiple instances in this game for them to be able to continue to move the ball or to force a turnover, which is something that they've had a hard time doing this season. It was really a good moment that you see Alontae Taylor finally getting one, and unfortunately it does not stand. There was the couple roughing the passer penalties. There's been a couple false starts. They've actually had 2 false start penalties in this game. That's 23 for them overall in the season. That's the worst in the NFL. So just some of these, the discipline, the lack of discipline at times, the shooting themselves in the foot, it's what we've talked about throughout this season, definitely flared up in today's game, JD.
Yeah, one of the things that we were looking for in this game that came to fruition, the Saints were able to get a couple of key guys back from injury on defense. Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, the 2 defensive ends, as well as Bradley Roby, the cornerback. We saw a debut from Trevor Penning, as you just mentioned earlier. The rookie offensive tackle played his first NFL game against the San Francisco 49ers. Unfortunately, not one that he will want to remember for the outcome, but he did get on the field as a part of the jumbo package for the Saints offensive line. They also got back left tackle James Hurst. He had been out missing with a concussion. So the Saints were probably in about as good a health as they've been for several weeks. And they looked like a pretty good team at times. But the flashes that you saw on offense simply were not enough that they strung together to where they were able to get anything going. Defensively, again, played extremely well. Gave up 2 field goals and a touchdown. The touchdown on a pass that was tipped by Tyrann Mathieu, a near interception, and unfortunately unable to come down with the football. So defensively, there is nothing to be ashamed of in this game. Now, I'm sure this defense will tell you they should have pitched a shutout. They came very close to doing so. They played a really, really good defensive game, but they also played a lot of snaps. Just in the first half alone, defense was on the field for 20 minutes and 11 seconds of the 30-minute half. They were on the field for 42 plays in that half. Now, did they do themselves a great deal of favors? Well, San Francisco was 4 of 9 on 3rd down, so they could have been able to get off the field a little bit better. But they only trailed 10-0 at halftime, only trailed 3-0 after the end of the first quarter. And as you can see from the final score, only 13-0 overall. But it appears, I believe, Dennis Allen is heading to the podium.
Disappointing loss. We came out here to win a game, and look, I thought we competed against a good team, but at the end of the day, we didn't make enough plays, and there was plays out there to be made, and we didn't make enough plays. And look, you got to give them credit. I mean, obviously they got a really good football team, offensively, defensively, in the kicking game. They made enough plays to win the game, but I felt like there were some opportunities out there for us, and we didn't take advantage of them.
Offense, defense, both?
Well, I think primarily there were some plays offensively that were there to be made, and we didn't take advantage of it.
What description did you get from the officials on the play that was overturned in the first half?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what a catch is in our league anymore. It's kind of changed multiple times. Their explanation to me was that he didn't survive the ground. So, I don't know what a catch is.
You mentioned not making plays, but turnovers was big in this game. How frustrating is that to see repeatedly this season in a game like this?
Yeah, frustrating, especially in a game like this. You start the game off, and on the first drive, you put the ball on the ground, and you're down 3-0 to a good team on the road, and then obviously we had another one down there, in the red area, where we're down there on about the 2-yard line. So, yeah, that's frustrating because we have some opportunities, and you're not gonna beat a good team unless you make the plays that are there to be made, and if you turn the football over, you're not gonna beat a good team.
Dennis, when you got back there a few minutes later, inside the 5, it was 4 straight passing attempts. Was that an indication of this team just wasn't letting you run the ball there? You weren't running the ball well? Yeah,
it was a struggle to run the ball against these guys, and we knew going into it that they were a good, run defense. We tried to call the plays that we thought gave us an opportunity to score. I felt like there was, potentially a missed call down there on Jarvis Landry when we missed him in the end zone, which would have been a big call in the end zone. But yeah, certainly we had our opportunities down there in the red area and weren't able to capitalize.
We talked so much about all the things, the buy-in and the confidence and keeping morale and spirit up. When you have a game at this point in the season where you scored 0 points, is that really frustrating and really hard to deal with?
Well, I think that's frustrating and hard to deal with in any part of the season. It is. But look, it happened, and we got to move on from it. We got to learn from it, and we got to make sure that we're better from it. So,
How big was that sequence? The interception on the back, obviously called back, but close call down the off.
yeah, I don't agree with the call, and I don't know exactly where we had the ball at. I want to say down there, 10-yard line, something like that. It was a big play in the game, a huge play in the game, and a total momentum-changing call in the game.
You referenced the shutout, but this seemed like a game where at any point you could really turn the tide quickly because of the amount of chances you get.
We had a lot of chances. We had a lot of chances. We had the ball in our hands a couple of times in the end zone and couldn't come up with the play. So, we're going to go back and look at this tape, but I feel like we gave ourselves plenty of opportunities to win this game. And look, you have to give them credit. Like, they made the plays when they needed to make the plays. And so I don't want to take anything away from them because I think they're an outstanding football team. But I feel like there were some plays out there that we could have made that could have been the difference in the game.
Dennis, the false start rate on the 4th down play or the quarter, it just seems like false starts in general have been an issue for the team this year. And that one specifically hurting them on the day.
Well, we went from going for it on 4th down to, attempting a field goal, and we didn't hit the field goal, so it affected us in that way.
And what was your plan with Taylor and Roby, kind of pushing out to your
Yeah, look, we were kind of rotating through there a little bit, and it's actually a good problem to have when you have good players, and I think, both Roby and Alante, and, hopefully Lattimore will be back. Adebo, I mean, I think, when we got everybody healthy, I think it's a pretty good group back there. So, yeah, we're trying to find snaps for everybody.
Do you feel like you all came into this game knowing the kind of game you were going to take to win, and you were close to
Yeah, and look, I feel like we played the game the way the game needed to be played. There's just some plays there that we have to make that make the difference in the game. The incompletion to Olave, I think, was, a big play. There's a couple of balls that are in the end zone that we have an opportunity to catch potentially. Now, they're good plays. It's not like they're just easy necessarily, but those are, to beat a good team like that, those are the plays that you have to make.
And to Luke's point about the having false starts and fumbles, I feel like it feels like questions we're asking after the postgame in September. I mean, did those two areas really sticking across false starts and fumbles being part of what sabotage looks like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't turn the ball over, and certainly penalties hurt. And they hurt us in those instances.
They had some injuries on the offensive line, but what do you account for the struggle running the ball, I guess, over the last 2 games overall?
Well, look, I'd have to go back and look at all the statistics, but I know we've played some, pretty good run defenses. I feel like we ran the ball fairly effectively last week. So, this was, look, we knew this was like they're the number 1 defense in the National Football League, and they're that way for a reason. They do a good job stopping the run. They do a good job of stopping the pass. So, they made the plays that they had to make today, and we didn't. Okay, thanks.
The room's open. You can stores back here if you don't mind, please, and then we'll have maybe Dalton finish the story.
Andy's gonna be the only one in to go.
I didn't see that.
And that was head coach Dennis Allen, obviously not pleased with the outcome, and of course not pleased with some of the calls that were made in the game. Some of them were really, really difficult ones. Alante Taylor's interception, Chris Harris on the defensive hold, illegal contact, really was a difficult call for Coach Allen to agree with. As well as Chris Olave's catch that was ruled an incompletion because he allegedly did not survive the ground. So, some of those things really tight, really close, and that's what happens in a big time game like this. In a close game, you'll have some razor thin calls that might influence the game one way or the other, and unfortunately, a couple of those calls didn't go in the Saints' favor. The Chris Olave catch, it appeared that he made several steps and got the elbow on the ground, but the officials, after the challenge, ruled that he did not survive the ground and it was not a catch. And the Chris Harris illegal contact, unfortunately, was on a play on a route that was nowhere close to where the actual interception occurred, so it didn't have an influence on the play. And yet, it is one of those things where, I guess by the letter of the law, the officials called it, and unfortunately, Alante Taylor has his first career interception wiped off and a golden scoring opportunity for the Saints taken away also. So, just razor thin in the NFL. Some of these plays, everyone, it's really, really close. These teams are extremely close when it comes to talent levels. They're extremely close when it comes to playmaking. But a couple of small things, turnovers, penalties, ill-advised plays, those things mount up and they count significantly in games like this. Aaron, what were some of your takeaways from Coach Allen here?
Yeah, JD, we've seen it in the NFL this season. Any team is beatable. We've seen some of the teams that we thought were the best out there. The Buffalo Bills have gotten beat. In this game here, the Saints knew they were going up a very tough 49ers defense, first in the league against the run. They're the only team out there that is holding teams under 300 total yards in a game. They knew it was going to be tough offensively to move the ball. And I think that Coach Allen said it best. They did not take advantage of the opportunities, the plays that they had when they were there. And you can't do that against a team that is as good as the 49ers are defensively. And it was a tough one for the Saints to get any offensive rhythm going because of some of those penalties, the false start, the pass interference calls that got negated, the different things like that kind of made the Saints have to reset on so many different occasions. But I do have to give them credit. They definitely did not, back down in this game. They were fighting until the very end. Even with 8 minutes, you look up and they're about to score and get in the end zone for the first time, get on the board for the first time, and you're thinking, oh, well, there's 8 minutes left. There's a ton of time left in this game. There's plenty of time for them to get on the board once, score again, and the 49ers had only scored 13 points. It was not too much for them to have to overcome. The way that the Saints played defensively definitely kept them in this game throughout. So I think that's a positive you can take away, getting some of their players back on the defensive end, Cam Jordan back on the line. You get Bradley Roby back, but then at the end of the game, it was announced that he was being evaluated for a concussion, so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next week. And then the possibility of getting cornerback Marshawn Lattimore back in the past week. He's been at practice, unable to go today, but that's going to be another addition for the Saints defensively, coming off a game where they did play very well, JD.
Yeah, and really for the second consecutive week, the defense held up well. They held up well against the Rams, even though they gave up 20 points, but they held up well against the Rams, held up well in this one. The Saints saw an extensive streak in today. Unfortunately, Saints had scored in 322 consecutive games, dating back to the final game of the 2001 regular season against the 49ers. But the Saints had scored in 322 consecutive games, which obviously was the leading figure in the NFL currently. That streak broken in this game, as we mentioned, just couldn't get it going offensively. In the first half, the Saints offense only ran 21 plays and had 119 yards. They couldn't stay on the field, 1 or 5 on third down. And so they couldn't possess the football. They never were able to establish a running game against San Francisco, something that probably is expected because San Francisco entered the game allowing only 81.1 rushing yards per game, 3.4 yards a carry. Saints had 22 carries for 63 yards. So that's not really alarming because San Francisco is a truly good team front to back defensively. They are a really well-rounded team. They're a team that a lot of people believe can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. They're that kind of talented. And yet, Saints really stood toe-to-toe with them, especially defensively. There is nothing that the Saints defense, which gave up a little bit more than 300 yards, but there's nothing that the Saints defense should or will hang its head about in this game. The outcome, obviously not favorable, but in terms of performance, I thought we saw Caden Ellis play extremely well again. He had 14 tackles, a game high. I thought we saw some really good flashes from Zach Baun at linebacker. I thought we saw some really good play from Paulson Adebo, who was credited with a couple of pass breakups. And now we have Andy Dalton at the podium. So we're going to have Andy Dalton right now.
yeah, that's what it came down to. We weren't able to finish them, and we had opportunities to make plays today, and we did not capitalize on it, and that affected the whole outcome of the game.
A little play in there in the first half of the Olave catch and the Olave complete. What did you see on that play? How surprising were you to hear from that?
You know, I didn't get to see a great look at the replay. I saw it live, and I thought he took several steps, and then when he hit the ground, the ball came out. So I thought it would have been a catch and down right there, but I guess they saw something different.
Is it hard to know what to catch anymore? I mean, it seems like you get out there every day.
Yeah, you know, I feel like you think you can just establish, make a football move, like going up and catching it and taking a couple steps will get it done, but I mean, they obviously saw something different.
Maybe just it seems like one of the consistent things for this team this year is just been well-written itself, whether it's the pre-snap penalties, the fumbles. How do you stop that stuff?
Yeah, I think everybody's got to look at themselves and go out there and expect that they're going to get their job done and do it right. And, that's kind of where we're at. We've been close. I mean, we moved the ball really well in this game. And there's a lot of, as crazy it is to say when you don't score a point, there's a lot of positive things that we did today, but we weren't able to finish. And there's we left a lot of plays out there.
Feel like snake bit in that regard? You have a positive change against really good defense and still
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating thing. This game could have been a lot different if we capitalize on those opportunities, but we didn't do that today. Yeah, you can't do that against a good team like this and a good defense. It's just another opportunity that was missed.
Andy, what is the mindset of the team? How do you feel like the team is reacting to the season?
Yeah, it's the crazy thing with where we're at. There's still stuff out in front of us, and we still have something to play for. And so, like the game today, it's frustrating because there's missed opportunities, especially with how the division shook out today. And so the good thing is we are sticking together, and we know what's out in front of us. We know that if we play the way we know we can play, good things can happen. So our big focus will be this next week and finding a way to win in Tampa on Monday night.
Anybody have anything else, Ryan?
Appreciate it.
Well, that's going to put a bow on all we hear from Coach Dennis Allen as well as the players. Obviously, again, disappointing loss for the Saints, 13-0 to the San Francisco 49ers at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. I'm John DeShazier for the Saints postgame report. Join us again next week here on NewOrleansSaints.com and our other availabilities as we prepare for the Saints, a Monday night game at Tampa Bay, where the Saints will try to get back on the winning track. For Aaron Summers, I'm John DeShazier, and we will see you soon.